Welcome back to Filmora Video Editing Training. In this video, we're going to lay some footage down on the timeline and explore more of the tools in Filmora X. If you missed the first video where we looked at the basic Filmora interface, you can check that out here, or you can navigate to any of the videos in this training series via the description below. There are also timestamps to help you find exactly what you're looking for. I'll see you over in Filmora. Alright, I think we're ready to import some media into our project. So I'm going to return to the My Media tab, Project Media, and I'm going to press Import. I have all our clips for today on my external hard drive. Depending on the kind of computer you have, how much space you have on your hard drive, you may want to have all of your video clips offloaded onto an external hard drive for editing, because it might just take up too much space on your computer. But one really important thing, no matter where you're saving your clips, I make it a practice to keep all of the assets, so that's footage, music, graphics, titles, animations, anything like that, in the one folder. And you can create subfolders in this folder for clips and audio and graphics, but as long as everything for that project is under one umbrella folder, that will safeguard against anything getting lost or disconnected from the project. Say you move it from your computer hard drive onto an external hard drive and one of the clips isn't in the folder, that's going to become unlinked from the project. And that could be really hard to find if you go back and you want to make more edits to that project. So a really good rule of thumb is keep all your assets for each project in one folder. So now let's have a look at what we've got here. This is a clip of me from a recent YouTube video about finding music for your videos. I have some B-roll of some people listening to music, and I have some audio. And then again, in this shared media folder, I have all the assets like my name super, more info, my logo, ready to drag and drop onto my timeline for any YouTube video that I create. So let's start by previewing my piece to camera. So if you've double clicked an item in your media panel, it will come up as a preview in this right hand window. From there, you can drag your media from this window directly onto your timeline. And we'll always click match to media because these two frame rates are different. So we want the timeline's frame rate to match my original clip's frame rate of 25 FPS. So now you can see as we scrub through, we have a visual of the clip and we also have a visual of the audio in terms of waveforms. So this is really helpful for us to see where I've stopped talking, made mistakes, and I can easily cut that out. So to edit a clip in Filmora, there are two different options. I could either drag from the beginning of my clip where the cursor changes to these two little arrows, and I could drag to where I've started talking and it'll immediately bump it back to the start of the timeline. So I'll drag my playhead back, hit spacebar to play your clip. And then I can move through and cut out any pauses or mistakes. So if I put the playhead line here where there's a bit of a gap, the other way to edit is to press the scissors and that will split the clip. And then I could either move the scissors, press it again, and then delete that clip. Or I could go to where my split has been created and I'm going to zoom in using this little plus button up here. And I can drag my clip more precisely to where I want it to go. So I would then go through, bring my playhead to the pause, press cut, grab my footage, move it along. I'll take out all those spaces or anywhere that I've made a mistake and cut it just like that. And you can see once we've moved down to working on the timeline, this window now becomes a preview for the timeline. As soon as we double click an asset that is up in My Media, it'll become a preview for that clip. If we click back onto the timeline, it'll become a preview for my timeline sequence. While we're here, let's have a quick look at what some of these different tools are that control the timeline and the preview window. So here we have our previous frame button, next frame, play, pause, and stop, which will take it back to the beginning of the timeline. Over here we have our mark in and out, which I will show you very soon when we start adding B-roll. We have the time code of where our playhead is at in the sequence. We have this full screen button, which will make our clip full screen if we'd like to preview it, which is always a really good thing to do at the end of editing your video. You preview the whole thing in full screen to make sure there are no mistakes and you're not distracted by anything else on the screen while you're watching your video. There is also a volume button for your project. If for some reason this has been turned down to 0 and you've turned your computer sound up to the top and you still can't hear anything, just check that this volume button is turned up all the way. You can take a snapshot of the current frame that you're at in the video, which will then be added to our media section here. This button allows you to edit the settings of your sequence if you realize you want it to be different after you've already started the project. So on our front screen, we chose our aspect ratio, and then we made sure the frame rate was correct when we put the clip onto the timeline. So if now you decide you want to make an Instagram Square video, you can now change those settings here. You will then need to edit the cropping of your video by double clicking it, going to transform, and scaling it up to the necessary size. You can also drag your position across or up and down by clicking and dragging on these values in your X and Y. For now, I'm going to reset this and I'm going to correct my timeline to widescreen. But while we are in this panel, which you can get to at any time by double clicking on your clip while it is in the timeline, I'll show you some of the other features up here. So of course you can rotate your clip, you can flip it horizontally or vertically, you can scale it up and down. I wouldn't recommend you scale it much above 100% if at all, because you'll start to lose quality in your clip. But if you really need to resize it, that option is there. If we drop down into compositing, this controls the opacity of the clip, which I would only use for something that might be an overlay effect or a title or something that you're putting over top of your talking head footage. The next options we'll look at in more depth in our next tutorial on advanced editing principles. For now, I'm going to go OK. If you do need to return to that window while you're on the timeline, you can double click your clip and you'll be able to edit all those settings there. Once you click away, it'll bring back your media panel. To continue on, we can look at our video in full, half, quarter, or eighth resolution. This is really just to save RAM on your computer, so it'll play back your video in a lesser quality, in a terrible quality. Actually, I can count the pixels on that. So if your computer is actually struggling to play back your footage and it's really glitchy, I can see mine is automatically compensating right now. I probably have a few other things running in the background. But if you are really struggling to play back your footage, try adjusting this to maybe half resolution and seeing if that makes the playback a bit smoother. Next, we have our audio waveform. So if you click on this show audio indicator, that will show me the volume of the audio in my video. So a good place to be is kind of hitting that -12 area, which I could probably pay to turn it up a little bit because it's not quite getting there. As long as it's not hitting the 0 and hitting the red, then that is a good place to be for your audio. So if I want to adjust my audio, I will click on my clip. I'm going to expand this so we can look at it a little easier and see where the hand closes on this audio line. I'm going to raise that by a few decibels, and then you can see the audio waveforms increase as well. So then if I bring my timeline over here, I hit play, I can now see that I'm more hitting that -10 area. So I'm happy with that for that video. I'm then going to do that with the other clips just because I've already cut them, but this is something that I would do at the start before I make any cuts. If you have already done lots of editing on your video and then you realize you want to turn the audio up, what you can do is highlight all of your clips in the timeline, right click, adjust audio. That'll bring up this window here. We have audio, and you can grab this little toggle here and slowly increase it. We can go OK. And that will adjust all of the clips together. So if we hit play now, it looks pretty good. We're still around that -10. We're not hitting the red. So I'm happy with that. We're going to leave it there for this video. Now might be a good time to jump into Filmora for yourself and practice some of the things that we've covered so far. There's a link to where you can download Filmora in the description below. In the next video, we're going to start to edit some B-roll into our composition. I'll see you there.